long ago, in a small village by the river, there lived a kind old man and his wife. They were humble farmers, spending their days tending to the fields and praying for a child, for they had none of their own. One fine morning, the old woman went down to the river to wash clothes, as she often did. The water sparkled under the sun, and the breeze carried the scent of wildflowers. As she scrubbed the linen, something unusual caught her eye. A giant peach, bigger than any she had ever seen, floating gently downstream. Amazed, she waded into the water and pulled the peach ashore. It was heavy, its pink skin glowing like the dawn. Delighted, she decided to take it home to share with her husband. When the old man saw the peach, his eyes widened in wonder. "What a splendid fruit!" he exclaimed. They placed it on the table and prepared to cut it open. But before they could, the peach suddenly split apart on its own. And there, nestled inside the fruit, was a rosy-cheeked baby boy smiling up at them. The couple gasped in joy. "A gift from the heavens," the old woman whispered, tears in her eyes. They named the child Momotaro, which means peach boy, for he had come to them inside a peach. From that day on, their humble home was filled with laughter and love, for they finally had the son they had longed for. Little did they know, Momotaro was no ordinary child, and his destiny would lead him on a great adventure. Momotaro was no ordinary child. From the moment the old couple took him in, they noticed something strange. He grew at an astonishing pace. By the time the peach blossoms fell and the summer sun warmed the earth, he was already as tall as a young boy. By the next harvest, he stood strong and sturdy, with a spirit as bold as a roaring river. The villagers whispered in awe. Some said he was blessed by the gods. Others claimed the mountain spirits had sent him. But the old man and woman simply smiled, grateful for their miraculous son. Momotaro helped them in the fields, his strength making light work of even the hardest labor. He chopped wood with ease, carried water buckets without tiring, and even scared away wild boars that threatened their crops. Yet, as the years passed, Momotaro grew restless. He would often gaze toward the distant mountains, his brow furrowed. One evening, as the family sat around the hearth, the old man sighed deeply. "Trouble stirs beyond our village," he said. "On Onigashima, the island of ogres, wicked demons raid our lands, stealing treasure and kidnapping innocent people. No warrior has ever dared to face them." Momotaro's eyes blazed with determination. "Then I will go," he declared. The old woman gasped. "No, my son, the ogres are monstrous. They crush bones with their clubs and breathe fire." But Momotaro only smiled. "Do not fear. I was sent to you for a reason. I will defeat them and bring peace to our land." Seeing his resolve, the old couple knew they could not stop him. That night, the old woman prepared special kibidango, millet dumplings, imbued with strength and courage. The old man gave him a sturdy staff and a sash to tie around his waist. At dawn, Momotaro stood at the village's edge, ready for his journey. The wind carried the scent of ripe peaches as his parents embraced him one last time. "Return to us safely," the old woman whispered. With a firm nod, Momotaro set off toward the unknown, where demons awaited and legends would be born. The road to Onigashima was long and winding, cutting through deep forests and over misty hills. Momotaro walked with steady steps, his sack of kibidango swinging at his side. The morning sun filtered through the trees, dappling the path with golden light. Before long, a rustling came from the bushes. Out bounded a scruffy but strong-looking dog, his fur the color of autumn leaves. The dog bared his teeth and growled. "Give me your dumplings or I'll bite you," he demanded. But Momotaro stood firm, unshaken. "Why should I give my food to a bully?" he asked. "If you're hungry, you should ask politely." The dog blinked, then sat back on his haunches. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. You're right," he admitted, bowing his head. "I'm sorry. The truth is, I'm starving. The ogres have scared away all the game in these woods." Momotaro studied the dog, his keen eyes, his powerful limbs. Here was a creature who knew the land and its dangers. Reaching into his sack, he pulled out a millet dumpling. "If you help me defeat the ogres, I'll share my food with you." "What'd he say?" The dog's tail began to wag. "Defeat the ogres? No one's ever been brave enough to try. But with you, I think it might be possible." He gobbled the dumpling in one bite, then puffed out his chest. "I'll join you. My nose is sharp, and my teeth are sharper. Together, we'll tear those demons apart." And so, the first of Momotaro's companions fell into step beside him. The two continued down the path, the dog sniffing the air for danger as the trees whispered secrets overhead. Somewhere ahead, the ogres waited. But Momotaro's army was just beginning to grow. As Momotaro and the dog traveled deeper into the forest, the trees grew taller and the shadows longer. Strange noises echoed through the branches, the chittering of insects, the rustle of unseen creatures, and occasionally a high-pitched chattering that sounded almost like laughter. One afternoon, as they crossed a narrow wooden bridge over a rushing stream, something small and quick dropped from the trees above. A wiry monkey with fiery red fur landed right in their path, baring his teeth in what might have been a grin or a threat. "Oh ho, what do we have here?" the monkey chattered, circling them with quick, jerky movements. "A boy and his mutt carrying something that smells delicious." His beady eyes locked onto Momotaro's sack of kibi dango. The dog growled, hackles rising. "Watch your tongue, flea bait! This is Momotaro, the great ogre slayer." The monkey stopped mid-step, suddenly serious. "Ogres? You're gonna fight the ogres?" He scratched his head vigorously. "That's either very brave or very stupid. But if you're serious, I want in." Momotaro studied the clever creature. "And why would a monkey want to fight ogres?" The monkey's face darkened. "Because they took my home, the great fruit trees where my family lived for generations. The ogres burned them all down." His small hands clenched into fists. "I may not look like much, but I'm quick, and I know every inch of these woods. I can climb where no one else can reach." Seeing the fire in the monkey's eyes, Momotaro nodded and offered him a dumpling. "Welcome to the team." As the three continued their journey, the monkey swung from branch to branch overhead, scouting the path ahead. The dog kept his nose to the ground while Momotaro walked steadily between them. The forest seemed to watch them pass, holding its breath in anticipation. The forest gradually thinned as the trio approached the rocky foothills leading to the sea. Here, the wind carried a salty tang, and the cries of seabirds echoed against the cliffs. It was in this rugged terrain that they encountered their third companion in the most unexpected way. One evening, As Momotaro and his companions made camp near a cliffside, a sudden shadow passed overhead. Before anyone could react, a brilliant flash of red, gold, and green feathers swooped down, snatching the last of the dog's dumpling right from his paws. "Why, you—" The dog yelped, jumping up in outrage. The monkey screeched and hurled a rock at the retreating figure, but Momotaro simply watched as the magnificent pheasant landed gracefully on a nearby rock. The stolen dumpling clutched in its beak. The bird's plumage shimmered into firelight like a living jewel. "That," said the pheasant in a surprisingly refined voice after swallowing the treat, "was quite delicious. I haven't tasted anything so fine since before the ogres came." The dog bared his teeth. "Thief! That was mine." The pheasant ruffled his feathers. "And now it's mine. But perhaps we can come to an arrangement." He turned his sharp eyes to Momotaro. "I've been watching you three trek toward Onigashima. You're either very brave or very foolish." "The brave one is Momotaro," the monkey chattered. "The rest of us are just smart enough to follow him." The pheasant considered this. "I know the way to Onigashima better than any creature alive. I've flown over those cursed shores many times, watching the ogre's movements." His voice grew bitter. "They've burned my nesting grounds and hunted my kin for sport." Momotaro reached into his sack and produced another dumpling. "Join us," he said simply. "With your wings and eyes, we'll have an advantage no warriors before us have possessed." The pheasant accepted the dumpling with a dignified nod. "Then it's settled. At dawn, I'll show you the hidden path to the shore where the ogres' boats are kept." That night, as the fire burned low, the four unlikely companions rested together. The dog curled at Momotaro's feet, the monkey draped over a branch, and the pheasant perched watchfully above them all. The sea wind carried whispers of the battle to come. As dawn painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, the company stood at the edge of the world where land met sea. Before them stretched the endless blue, and in the distance, wreathed in ominous mist, loomed the jagged silhouette of Onigashima. The pheasant flapped his brilliant wings, pointing with his beak toward a hidden inlet where fishermen's boats lay overturned in the sand. "These will carry us across," the pheasant declared, "but we must be swift. The ogres patrol these waters when the sun is high." The monkey scratched his head nervously. "I don't like water," he muttered. "Trees don't grow in the sea." The dog sniffed at the nearest boat. "It smells of fish and fear," he growled. "But if it leads to ogres, I'll gladly sail in it." Momotaro placed a steadying hand on the boat's hull. "Then let us prepare." Together, they righted the sturdiest vessel and stocked it with what provisions they could find. Fresh water in bamboo flasks, dried persimmons from the pheasant's cache, and of course, the last of the magical kibi dango, to strengthen them for battle. As they pushed off from shore, the sea greeted them with rolling waves that rocked the boat like a cradle. The pheasant took to the skies, scouting ahead, while the monkey clung white-knuckled to the mast. The dog stood proud at the prow, his nose testing the wind for the stench of ogres. And Momotaro? He sat calm and still at the stern, his eyes fixed on the approaching island where smoke rose in dark pillars from unseen fires. The crossing passed without incident until, just as the shore came within reach, the water around them began to churn violently. Something massive moved beneath the waves, something that made even the brave dog's fur stand on end. "Hold fast!" cried the pheasant from above, but his warning came too late. With a tremendous splash, the sea erupted as a monstrous sea serpent rose before them, its scales black as midnight, its eyes burning like embers. The ogre's sentinel had found them. The serpent's massive body coiled around their boat, its scales scraping against the wood like knives on stone. Hot breath reeking of rotten fish washed over them as the creature opened its maw, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. The monkey shrieked and scrambled up the mast. "I told you I don't like water." The dog bared his fangs, though his tail tucked slightly between his legs. The pheasant circled above, his wings beat as furiously as he searched for an opening to attack. But Momotaro stood firm. He reached into his sack and drew out one of the last kibi dango. Holding it aloft, he called out in a voice that carried over the crashing waves, "Great serpent! You serve the ogres against your will, do you not?" The creature paused, its slitted pupils narrowing. "What trickery is this?" it hissed, its voice like waves on jagged rocks. "No trick," Momotaro said. "I see the scars where the chains have bitten into your flesh. Join us instead. Taste this dumpling and know the strength of those who fight for freedom." For a long moment, the only sound was the lap of waves against the boat. Then slowly, the serpent lowered its head and took the dumpling from Momotaro's hand. As it swallowed, a shudder ran through its massive body. And then, miraculously, the creature began to shrink. Where once loomed a terrifying sea monster, now coiled a slender, silvery water dragon no larger than the boat itself. "The ogre's magic, broken," it murmured in wonder. Then it bowed its head to Momotaro. "I will guide you safely to shore, and when you face the ogres, I will rise against them with the fury of the tides." With the dragon leading the way, the boat cut swiftly through the waves. Onigashima's black sand beach grew ever closer, where dark figures moved about towering bonfires. The time for stealth had passed. The battle for the island was about to begin. The black sand crunched beneath their feet as Momotaro and his companions crept ashore under cover of the serpent's mist. Before them rose the ogre's fortress, a monstrous structure of jagged wood and bones, its gates adorned with the skulls of fallen warriors. The air reeked of sulfur and spoiled meat, and the distant sounds of raucous laughter and clashing cups echoed through the night. The pheasant landed softly on Momotaro's shoulder. "The main force feasts in the great hall," he whispered, "but 2 guards stand watch at the gate, one with eyes like burning coals, the other with a nose that can sniff out intruders from a mile away." The monkey chattered nervously. "Even if we get past them, there are dozens more inside." Momotaro studied the fortress, then turned to his companions. "We'll need more than strength to win this fight. We'll need cunning." He pointed to the dragon. "You'll create a diversion at the eastern wall. Draw their attention with waves and mist." The dragon nodded and slipped back into the sea. To the pheasant he said, "Fly above and tell us when the way is clear." To the dog and monkey, "You two will take out the guards, but quietly." As the dragon's mist rolled in thick and heavy, the guards at the gate stirred uneasily. "What's this cursed fog?" growled the one with fiery eyes. His companion sniffed the air. "I smell dog." That was all the warning they got before the dog lunged from the mist, sinking his teeth into the nose guard's leg, while the monkey dropped from above, wrapping his tail around the eye guard's throat. The struggle was brief but fierce. When the mist cleared, both ogres lay unconscious, bound with their own belts. The pheasant swooped down. "Hurry! The others are still drinking. They haven't noticed." With the gates unguarded, Momotaro led his band into the heart of the ogre's lair. Somewhere in the shadows ahead, the Demon King awaited. But first, they would free his prisoners. The fortress interior was a nightmare of smoke and shadows, the air thick with the stench of spilled sake and charred meat. Momotaro's band moved like ghosts through the torch-lit corridors, following the pheasant's whispered directions toward the dungeon where prisoners were kept. They found the captives in a sunken pit. Villagers from across the land, gaunt and hollow-eyed, their chains fastened to the stone floor. The monkey made quick work of the locks with his clever fingers, while the dog stood guard, his growl silencing any whimpers of surprise. But just as the last prisoner was freed, a thunderous voice shook the fortress. "Who dares steal from the king of ogres?" The ground trembled as the Demon King himself appeared, a towering figure with crimson skin and curling ram's horns, his massive club studded with spikes. Behind him crowded his remaining warriors, their yellow eyes gleaming with malice. Momotaro stepped forward, his staff at the ready. "Your reign ends today," he declared. "These people go free, and your island will burn no more." The Ogre King threw back his head and laughed, the sound like boulders crashing down a mountain. "One peach-born boy against my army. You amuse me." He raised his club. "Let's see if you amuse my warriors too." With a roar, the battle was joined. The dog leapt at the nearest ogre's throat. The monkey scrambled up walls to drop stones on their heads. The pheasant dove like a golden arrow pecking at eyes. And Momotaro? He moved like a storm, his staff striking with the force of a river current. But the Demon King was cunning. As the fight raged, he grabbed a burning torch and hurled it at the wooden beams above, trapping them all in a ring of fire. Flames roared through the fortress, licking at the rafters like hungry demons. The prisoners screamed and huddled together as smoke choked the air. The Ogre King bellowed with laughter, certain his enemies would perish in the inferno. But Momotaro did not falter. With a mighty swing of his staff, he shattered a burning beam, creating an opening. "Pheasant, lead the people to safety," he commanded. The golden bird swooped down, shepherding the villagers toward a hidden passage only he had seen from the skies. The dog and monkey fought side by side, their movements perfectly matched, the dog's savage bites and the monkey's nimble strikes driving back the ogre warriors. Yet the Demon King himself stood untouched, his club raised high for a crushing blow. It was then that the sea serpent returned. With a tremendous crash, the fortress wall exploded inward as the great dragon burst through, seawater cascading from its scales. Its roar shook the very foundations as it coiled around the Demon King, dragging him toward the crumbling exit. "Now, Momotaro!" the dragon cried. Momotaro leapt onto the serpent's back as it surged forward, carrying them both through the burning hall and out onto the cliffs above the sea. There, with the last of his strength, Momotaro raised his staff, and with a single mighty strike, sent the Demon King tumbling into the raging waves below. As dawn broke, Onigashima burned behind them. The surviving ogres fled into the sea, never to return. The villagers wept with joy, free at last. And Momotaro? He stood quietly with his companions, watching the smoke curl into the morning sky. Their work was done, and that, my friends, is the tale of the Peach Boy. To keep listening to more stories like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Until next time, this is Uncle Ben signing off. Take care, and may the gods watch over you.